1 in 2 people are going to be diagnosed with cancer before they hit 80. So we absolutely have to step in and look at how we can take control of our own health.
This is literally such a good biohack. 15 minutes on here is the equivalent to 45 minutes of running or in the gym. This is in my garage and I use it every other day. And the Finnish sauna study shows that just by using a sauna 3 to 4 times a week, it's going to put years on our lives. Longevity isn't just about lifespan, so how many years we're going to live. It's all about health span. How many years are we going to live in good health?
If you're 60 and you do a biological age test and you find out you're 70, there's lots of things you can do to try and get back to your actual age and potentially reverse that. But again, you need to get the data, and also for some people it might be they have to stop drinking alcohol and give their body a chance to recover and their liver to repair, because it can do that. I just want to be independent and strong and fit, and I don't want to end up in an old people's home and have dementia or issues with my body and my brain. So that's kind of my goal.
So, Camilla, if someone's just hit play on this conversation, why should they stick around and listen to you on the topic of biohacking?
Because biohacking is a way we can future-proof our health, and 1 in 2 people are going to be diagnosed with cancer before they hit 80. So we absolutely have to step in and look at how we can take control of our own health so that we can live longer, healthier, happier lives. And I'm Australia's leading biohacker. I've written the first book in Australia on biohacking, which is due to be launched in the end of May here in Australia, endorsed by the father of biohacking himself, Dave Asprey. And I am so passionate about helping people supercharge their lives one biohack at a time, and making it really accessible so that anybody can do biohacking. It's not just for the elite and for the tech bros. It's for anybody. And I'm just so passionate about preventative health and personalised health and working out what works for individuals. We're not a one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to health. We really need to look at how we tailor interventions and hacks so that they work for us.
Camilla, can I just start off with a pretty basic question, I guess? What is biohacking?
Yep, it's a good question. So biohacking is about taking control of your health and your biology, and it's using your environment and lifestyle to do that. So sometimes we talk about epigenetics, and that's looking at, we're all born with a set of DNA and that doesn't change. But depending on what we do, our environment, our lifestyle, we turn on different gene expression for the prevention of chronic disease, or we open ourselves up to chronic disease. So, for example, if we're eating loads of ultra-processed food, refined sugars, and we're not moving our bodies, we're going to turn on a gene expression that means we're more prone to getting sick and chronic disease. So we really need to do the opposite. We need to eat healthy food, move our bodies, and that's going to help protect us against chronic disease. And ultimately, biohacking is about making those decisions that are informed and being curious about finding out what works for you to support your health long term.
So what was it for you that got you into biohacking in the first place?
Yeah, look, biohacking became a lifeline for me. I was very unwell for about 8 years, and I went backwards and forwards from doctor to doctor. No one could diagnose what was wrong with me. I was constantly dehydrated, no energy, immune system issues, bulging eyes, hormones, anxiety through the roof. It was really quite full on. And eventually I just got completely gaslit and told it was all in my head by GPs because they did not know what was wrong with me. And finally, we found out that I'd been living in mold for about 8 years and I'd been poisoned, and it had really wreaked havoc in my body. And unfortunately, the GPs they don't know about mold. They don't know how to test it. They don't know how to treat it. So I had to take my own health into my own hands to heal my body, to heal what I was diagnosed with, which was chronic inflammation for the rest of my life, which I've managed to reverse through biohacking.
So, Sorry, what does mold do to your body? I understand that it can't be good, but what does it actually do to you?
Yeah, so look, when we've got water damage in a building, it releases mycotoxin spores, and 25% of the population can't get rid of those spores. So you may be able to inhale those spores and basically poop them out. But for someone like me that has a specific gene, I can't get rid of them. So it just wreaks absolute havoc in my body. So it can be neurological, it can be on your chest. So a lot of people get sinus and coughs. It causes chronic inflammation in the body. I had what had mimicked arthritis as well. I was literally like an old woman, like creaking around with my bones, no energy. It was awful. And I really had to start trying new things. So I got into loads of different biohacking techniques and different supplements to heal my body and regain my energy in my life, which I've done.
How can we test if we have that gene you were just talking about? Is it an at-home test, or do you have to see a doctor?
Yeah, look, you can actually see a GP and ask for it. It's called the HLA, DR or DQ gene, and it's part of the celiac family gene. And if you have that, it means you are predisposed to mold illness, and your body will not, literally your body, it's an alien thing in your body and your body doesn't know what to do with it. Whereas most people, it will just get rid of it. So you can test it through the GP. That's your best way to do that one.
Okay, so with biohacking, we can hack our lives and hack our health to live longer and live healthier lives. Is there a goal for you to, a certain age that you want to get to? Do you want to get over 100? Is it 110, 120, or is that not the motivation for you?
Well, look, it is for many biohackers. So people like Dave Asprey, he wants to live to 180. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Brian Johnson.
Yeah.
Is that realistic, though? Is 180 actually realistic?
He truly believes it's realistic. So I went to his conference in Dallas last year and I met him, and he truly believes it is realistic. I think he thinks with modern technology and some of the things that you may have seen in Brian Johnson's doco, Don't Die, like extreme biohacking, that's really, not where I'm positioning myself at all. But it is amazing. They're pushing the realms of what we thought was possible with longevity. So who knows? It is possible. They genuinely believe it's possible. For me, I would love to live to 100, but in good health. So with biohacking, we talk about health span, right? So lifespan is how many years we're going to live, but we want our health span to equal our lifespan. So we want those years that we live in good health to equal the amount of years that we live. So that's my goal. I just want to be independent and strong and fit, and I don't want to end up in an old people's home and, and have dementia or issues with my, with my body and my brain. So that's kind of my goal.
Biohacking seems like it's a really expensive thing to do. Like you just mentioned, the Brian Johnsons of the world, those tech billionaires who are investing an awful amount of money into it. Can it be done on a budget? Is that a thing?
Yeah, in my book, I talk about biohacking on a budget, and it's something I'm really passionate about because unfortunately it's quite polarizing when a lot of people see in the media, these people spend $2 million in a year biohacking and reversing their age. So I think Brian's reversed his age to 18. He's the same age as his son. And I think he's the same age as me. He's 48. So that is next level, right? And I think that makes it inaccessible for people. And they just go, this is crazy shit. Like, what's this all about? Whereas what I want to do is go, actually, here are some everyday things that we can do. I talk about the biohacking basics that are foundations that anyone can do. And if you get those right, you are going to extend your life. So it's looking at things like nutrition and sleep and movement and mindset and gut health and all those things that we actually have quite a lot of control over and a lot of choice. And it's just getting people to understand what that looks like for them and how they can actually live well longer if they're doing all of those biohacking basics.
So where do you get your food from? Do you get it from the big supermarkets or do you go to farmers markets? Where do you go to collect your food for the week?
So look, I grow some stuff. I get stuff from farmers markets. Look, I'm really lucky I've got access. Not everybody does, there's certain parts of Sydney and Australia, right, where we've got access to farms and great meat and eggs and veggies. But some people in rural areas, they really don't have access to a lot of good food, and in towns and cities as well. So I think I really love farmers markets. I find it's better value than the supermarkets and the quality is so much fresher. So it definitely makes a big difference. Our soil in Australia is so all the nutrients have been taken out of it because everything's so sprayed and loads of chemicals. So we're not actually getting as much nutrients as we need from the food that we're eating.
Yeah, right. You mentioned sleep. Sleep is a big thing.
It is huge.
There's so many things about sleep. How does it affect our, biological age?
It really does. Look, I think there's loads of studies that show, if you're getting under 7 to 8 hours a night, that it really does impact cognitive impairment. I think 5 hours, it's like you're hungover. If you only had 5 hours sleep, it's like, and if you're driving a car, it's the equivalent. So, there's some people that say they only need a few hours sleep a night, but it's very rare that you can function like that. So sleep's where we do all our repairing, our healing. It's, when we look at the hallmarks of aging, so you've got some key hallmarks. So things like telomeres. So your telomeres are a bit like shoelaces. And as you get older, they shorten. Like once you hit 40, a lot of stuff starts going on, right? So your telomeres start shortening and your mitochondria, which is like our internal life force. So it was actually the inspiration behind Star Wars. For the Force is our mitochondria, which I love. It's like we've all got the Force within us. But that sort of is like a battery. It's like a mobile phone battery, and that just runs down and down as we get older. So that's another thing we focus on, is how do we sort of recharge that mitochondria, and also looking at our cells. So our cells start to go into what we call zombie cells. So when we look at those hallmarks of aging, we go, what can I do to protect them? And there's so many great things. It's nutrition, it's intermittent fasting, it's sleep. Sleep is like, it helps all of that amazing work to happen in our cells to repair and rejuvenate and all of that.
How does honey help us go to sleep?
That's one of my favorite hacks. So it's a really interesting one, the honey hack. So when we're asleep, our brain is actually still really active. There's loads going on. Even though we think we're like dead to the world, we're actually not. And our brain uses glycogen in our liver, so that's its energy source. And often people will wake up at like 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, and that's because their brain is looking for some energy. We've also had a big sort of shot of cortisol and adrenaline through the body. And if we're already running around quite stressed on loads of cortisol, we'll just wake up and then the brain starts going and we're thinking about work and whatever the mundane, weird stuff that we think about at 3 a.m. But the honey really helps people to sleep through the night because it tricks and mimics the body into using that honey as its glucose, as its glycogen storage. And so, yeah, it's a really great hack. It has to be good quality honey, though. You need Manuka or just raw, unfiltered honey. You can't use the cheap, squeezy one. That will just send your blood glucose through the roof.
And when so do you take it before you go to bed? Just before?
Yeah, look, it depends if you're fasting. So if you're fasting, I say to people, do it after dinner. And what it will often do is curb a sweet tooth as well. So if you have a good spoonful of honey after dinner, that can be like your sweet fix. And that will work. So definitely that helps. Another thing is magnesium for sleep. Like we are nearly all deficient in magnesium. Like it's an absolute necessary supplement for most people to take to boost their levels up, and then you can give it a break. But definitely taking a good magnesium really helps.
You mentioned fasting, and I feel like fasting is super different for women versus men. Is biohacking the same thing? Like, do you have to look at it differently? Like, if I'm going to start doing something, Simon might not be able to mimic that. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Sonia. Like so with everything, it's whether or not you're male or female, like we talk about bio-individuality. So it's like working out what works for you and your unique needs, which is, we're all different. Like even you and I would be different, Sonia, even though we're both women, like we're different ages and different needs. And I probably run more cortisol than you may, or the other way around, which means like an ice bath might not be great for me if I'm really high cortisol. So I think you've got to really sort of try and experiment. That's what biohacking is about. And that's why I love it. And that's why it was so great for me when I was sick, because it's all about curiosity and experimentation and going, okay, I'm going to try this. If I don't feel great after it, then it's not for me. But yeah, definitely when it comes to fasting, for women and men, it can be different depending on our time of the month and what we need. And for some people, fasting, it's not for them. Yeah, but most of us need a minimum of 12 hours. Like everyone can do 12 hours. That's really important, that our body's not digesting food for 12 hours. Like if that's the goal, great. If you can do more, brilliant.
Okay.
Is there I'm 40 and I am, I'd say, just starting to find all of this very interesting now. I now feel what you mentioned, there are things that my body could do at 30 that it cannot do anymore at 40. Is there a demographic that is more interested in biohacking? Is it 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s? Like what demographic is the most interested, would you say?
It's such a good question, Simon, because we're seeing the younger generations now are so much more focused on their health and they're not into drinking as much. They don't really want alcohol. They're sort of really they're seeing all these places where they can hang out as a community and do saunas and ice baths and red light therapy and all these things. So they're actually really kind of focused on health. They've watched a lot of their parents go through quite heavy drinking of that demographic and kind of gone, yeah, that's not for us. But then you'll find it's like all ages are interested in what they can do to live longer. A lot of people who are a bit older will say, oh, it's too late for me, and it's like, it's never too late. Like it really isn't too late to make changes. Like the body responds and heals. Our bodies are amazing. They can evolve and change quite quickly if you start programming it the right way with the right food and moving.
So a 60-year-old who's been drinking their entire life, and let's say they were a heavy drinker, they have the ability to make changes if they make drastic, like how much of a change can it make to their life?
Well, look, I guess it depends how much damage has been done. And I think the thing about biohacking is it's about testing and data and measurement. So we always say, get your blood work done, do as much profiling as you can so that you can see, okay, if there's damage here. For example, when you do your biological age test, it will show what's actually going on at a cellular level. So, and your bio age is looking at, chronological age. I'm 48. My bio age is 38 at the moment. I'm looking to reverse that a little bit more. But if you're 60 and you do a biological age test and you find out you're 70 as your actual bio age, then, there's lots of things you can do to try and get back to your actual age and potentially reverse that. But again, you need to get the data. And also, for some people, it might be they have to stop drinking alcohol and give their body a chance to recover and their liver to repair, because it can do that.
Well, what does alcohol do to your body?
Oh, it's I hate to be the party pooper with this one. I used to love a drink. I've stopped drinking so much in the last few years because the research is there, and now it's been certified as a type 1 carcinogen. So this has happened in the last couple of months. And a bit like smoking, a lot of the research has been repressed, and now it's coming out and they're saying actually alcohol does cause cancer. We're going to see it on bottles, cans. Ireland is actually the first country that's going to do this.
Wow.
Which is interesting. So on their cans of Guinness, it's going to say this.
No way, like a pack of cigarettes.
But yeah.
That is going to be quite difficult for Australia, I would say.
It's going to be really hard.
Really hard, because we're like the Irish, we have that culture of drinking and going out to the pub. Even the British, they finish work, they go to the pub after work. So, you think about back, 30, 40 years ago, smoking people would smoke in restaurants and all that kind of thing.
Yep.
Do you think that we will see that slowly start to shift in the next 10 to 15 years, where we won't see as many pubs and people drinking as much as what they do in our culture?
We're already seeing it. We are already seeing it. We're already seeing it at music festivals, particularly the younger generations. They're not spending what the older generations are on alcohol because they're quite put off by it. But I think it's in moderation. I think we can't get too neurotic. It's there are so many things in this world that are toxic. And yes, alcohol is toxic and it is a poison, but again, in moderation, and seeing what we're drinking as well. So it's trying to be sensible around what you're drinking. But I think we are going to see a major shift. That's why it's so booming, the non-alcoholic space. It's huge. All your non-alcoholic drinks, it's gone mental. So that's because people still want the taste. They still want to feel like they're having the ritual, because we all love doing that. There's something
it's a massive
really beautiful
part of the culture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is. And I think, I love a good Tommy's Marg.
Yeah,
of course. Who doesn't?
It's I'm not going to stop doing that.
Yeah.
I'll still have that, but just not every day and maybe not every week.
Yeah.
I want to walk out of this chat and I want to go and put some biohacking into my life. What are the top 5 things that you would say to me that I don't want to go and blow the budget. I don't want to spend a lot of money. What can I go and do today and begin my next 40 years of life in a more positive way?
Well, look, the first thing is look at what you're eating, look at your nutrition and making sure you're getting really good quality protein with every meal, good fats. So you've got your avocado, your olive oil. So really eating more of that Mediterranean diet. We really know that helps to extend our lives. Mindset is so important, right? So we talk about FOGO, which is that fear of growing old. I've reframed it as JOGO, so it's now the joy of growing old. But if we have a pro-aging mindset, we actually gain 7.5 years in our life. So there's been research and studies that show that if we look at pro-aging rather than anti-aging, we can actually gain years on our life. So that doesn't cost you anything. That's just about changing your mindset around getting old. Yeah. I've got friends in their early 40s who are like, oh, my bones are creaking. I feel so old. And I'm like, you shouldn't feel like that. You just shouldn't. So something's not right. You're not getting enough nutrients. You're not getting enough sleep. You're not hydrated enough. So hydration is really important, making sure that you're hydrating properly. And one of my hacks for that is using Celtic sea salt, because our body is basically water and salt. So we're like the ocean inside. And if you guys have ever had a saline drip before, in hospital, it's salt and water, because that's how you hydrate. So proper hydration, pinch of Celtic sea salt. It doesn't cost you much at all. It will hydrate your brain and your cells properly. So I start with that. So nutrition, hydration, movement. We got to move our body every day, 30 minutes. Doesn't matter if it's incidental or intentional, but trying to get that 30 minutes of moving our bodies every day is really important. And gut health, again, is like making sure that you can do a microbiome test, making sure that your gut health is good. And if not, what do you need to support that? And my number one is saunas. So even if you can find somewhere local, like the studies into saunas is next level. Like it literally puts years on your life. So that's my number one go-to.
And why is that? Like, what is the sauna doing for the body?
Well, it's heating it up at such a level that it fights off so many different sort of pathogens and disease and anything that's going on in the body. But it allows the cells to recharge with detoxing. Like for me, that was a savior with mold. Like it really allowed me to get the mold out of my body. But we're getting rid of all the crap out of our body when we sweat. It makes us feel good. So our dopamine levels go through the roof. And we know that things like oxytocin and dopamine are linked to longevity as well. So yeah, infrared saunas or Finnish saunas, whichever way, the cold saunas are really great. And cold showers cost nothing.
And how long do you need to, like, how long would you recommend?
How long can you go?
Yeah.
Competition. So I just have a normal warm shower, and then unless I've got out the sauna, then I'll go straight into a cold shower. I've got one in my garage. Like I bought it years ago because it was part of my health protocol. And like it's an investment, but the best investment I ever made. For my health. But cold showers, 30 seconds, start there. You will get easier and easier, but cold showers help to activate our vagus nerve as well, which reduces our stress levels down. And it reduces inflammation. And there's so many benefits. So that hot-cold therapy contrast is absolutely key.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
You've mentioned stress a couple of times. Is that one of the key factors in, I guess, aging us more?
Yes, absolutely. 100%. It's like we can do all these amazing things and eat well and hydrate and stop drinking so much alcohol. But if we're super stressed out of our minds every day, then yeah, absolutely it ages us. And it impacts things like what I was talking about earlier, those hallmarks of aging. So the stress creates oxidative stress, which puts all of this pressure on our internal organs and our cells. So when it comes to stress, it's like, okay, what can we do? What's within our control? How can we perceive stress differently? How can we manage it differently? There's some great technology you can use now as well to really help reduce down your stress levels that help you more with breath work and meditation and vagus nerve stimulation, which you can put on your neck. But yeah, managing stress is a big one because cortisol is a fat storer. It's our biggest stress hormone. You know, a lot of us are running around all day on adrenaline and cortisol. We're not actually coming down from it. It's like a complete high all the time. And often if you wake up in the night, you're getting more cortisol. Your body, it's like a magnet because it's full of cortisol. So I think learning to do breath work is really important. Like every night when you go to bed, put your hands on your belly and just breathe in and out from your tummy. I call it big belly, little belly. So you want it to blow up like a balloon and then deflate. In and out through your nose only, that actually sends a message to your nervous system that you're safe, you're okay, it's time to sleep, rest, digest, and that flushes out cortisol. So it's just such an easy hack that anyone can do, and that really helps to reduce your stress. So I would say that's my number one recommendation.
Okay.
I want to go back to Brian Johnson. I watched the documentary on Netflix. I've also seen him interviewed on the Diary of a CEO, and I have to say that after watching him, at first I was a bit not too sure how to take him. But I have to say I really enjoyed hearing his story and why he wants to do this. How do you feel about someone like him?
Look, I felt the same. Like when I was reading stuff in the media, I was like, this guy is nuts. He's crazy. Like, what is this? Plasma, blood transfusions, his dad, his son. I was like, this is just cray-cray, wacky stuff. But when I heard his story, it's like you suddenly empathize and identify with him and go, actually, what he's doing is pretty remarkable. Like he is literally pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible when it comes to extending life. And, you know, he's come from ill health, same as Dave Asprey. Like, you know, he was overweight, he lived in mold. Like Dave and I have got a very similar gene profile. And so I understand what got these guys into it is that they were unhealthy and they were like, if I carry on like this, I'm going to be dead when I'm 40 or 50. So that was their motivation. And I think if we go back to what I said at the beginning, 1 in 2 people are going to be diagnosed with cancer before the age of 80. Like, we have to do something about it. We all have to stand up for our own health and go, the world that we've created is actually really quite toxic, and we've got to minimize some of that. We can't minimize it all, which is fine, but we do have to start doing stuff. And I feel like Brian is showing us what's possible. And, you know, I hope it doesn't put people off that they think that biohacking is something they can't do, because it absolutely is for everyone. Just being in nature, vitamin D, like walking, like all of these things. Reading a book reduces our stress by 68%, reading a book for 6 minutes before bed. Like, there's so many things we can do to help us de-stress and live longer that doesn't have to cost the earth.
All of the things that someone like Brian Johnson is doing, like those blood transfusions and the plasma stuff, is there actual science behind it working?
Yeah, look, there is, and it has worked. Like, he biologically, he's 18, right?
Wow.
Which I would not want to be 18 again, but anyway. Does anyone want to be 18? But it has worked. He is the living proof. I mean, the problem is, what we're finding with biohacking is the science can't catch up. So a lot of what's happening is experimental, or it's been researched and there's peer reviews, but it hasn't been approved by, say, the FDA or the TGA. So it's a very murky area sometimes. Like, I have to be really careful about what I talk about as well, particularly from supplementation and things like that, because, you know, you just do. There's a sense of responsibility there, but the science just isn't catching up quick enough. It costs so much money to do some of these studies. And a lot of it's done on animals, and we need it to be done on humans so that we can validate that research even further. So, yeah, Brian works with this doctor who's done his whole protocol. I can't remember. I don't know if you remember his name, Simon, but that was the guy that's done a lot of what he's doing. And now a lot of other doctors are following suit and sort of trying to explore this as well. So watch this space. There's going to be more happening. A lot of stuff's illegal. Like, you'd have to go to Mexico or Dubai, like gene editing. That is fascinating. I don't know if you've heard about that.
Well, what's gene editing? How does that work?
Well, that's where you basically edit your genes. So it's where you're going in and you're deleting genes. So for example, if you've got the double BRCA gene for breast cancer, or you've got the double gene for Alzheimer's or something like that, you can actually go to these countries and they'll gene edit. So they'll go in. I don't know the whole specifics behind it, but they'll delete these genes. So you
won't get that. You're unlikely to get it later in life?
No, it means it will stop you. So if you've got some of those genes, it means you're predisposed, right? The double BRCA means chances are you're predisposed to get breast cancer, potentially cervical cancer. But if you can delete those genes, then that gives you a chance of not actually having to be predisposed to that. So it's very, very in the future, but people are doing it. So
how far in the future? Like, when you say is this, you know, we're talking about cars driving themselves in 3 years' time. Like is this a 20-year? Is it going to happen in our lifetime?
I reckon it will.
Yeah.
I mean, there's driverless cars in San Francisco now, right?
Yeah.
So I honestly feel like this gene editing, it's just so out there. I just don't know how it will ever get approved. But I mean, this biohacking tourism is huge. Like, people are going to Thailand, to Mexico, to Dubai, to all these different countries where they can get they've got more access to some of these, particularly people with real chronic disease issues. Like, if we look at fecal transplants as well, that is revolutionary. So they're reversing like severe mental health disorders for people by doing fecal transplants. So the future is so interesting. Like, there's a lot happening.
Biohacking has been, talked about in the Northern Hemisphere, I guess, for a lot longer than it has been in Australia. Why has it taken a little bit longer for it to get momentum down here in Australia?
Because we're followers. We're not early adopters. I love us, but we're followers. Well, look, we're just not the early adopters. So Dave Asprey's conference was the 10th conference last year, 10th annual. So that's been going for 10 years in the US. Last year, there was conferences everywhere globally. Singapore, they're leading the way. Japan, like, there's just incredible. London. But Australia, we're just, with a lot of things health-wise as well, we're just a little bit behind. But I think we're catching up pretty quickly here, actually. I think there's some interesting stuff happening in Melbourne. You've got the St. Haven guys, Tim Gurner. You've got Tristan, who's got Super Young. So those guys are doing some pretty cool stuff. I work with a company called Everlab, and they are headed up by Dr. Stephen Liu, and they're doing some amazing stuff in the personalised health using AI. And that's probably another whole podcast, is talk about AI and biohacking. Like, it's fascinating, like amazing.
Well, yeah, it sounds like AI is definitely going to change the medical landscape entirely.
Well, people have their AI coaches, which, being a health coach and nutritionist, I'm not sure where that leaves the future of some of us, but I feel like you'll still always need that personal touch, but you'll have that kind of coach in a pocket. Whoop is very similar to that. So the Whoop band is about coaching and looking at trends and optimizing your health through your own metrics. So you're benchmarking against yourself, right? And going, like, where's my HRV? So your heart rate variability, if that's increased, that means you're predisposed to deal with stress better. Whereas if you've got a low HRV, it means you're burnt out, you're tired, you're not sleeping properly, and you can't cope with stress. So these are really good metrics for us as humans to go, actually, okay, I need to do something about this for me. It's, benchmark against yourself. That's kind of what biohacking's about.
Well, if I owned a Whoop band,
yes,
and I know nothing about it, what are the levels or readings that I need to pay attention to, like straight off the bat?
So look, Whoop's really interesting. It's very similar to Aura rings, which you may have heard of. But so it's not like a watch. So you don't have like an Apple Watch. It's not pinging you all the time, because actually, Apple Watches can get quite stressful because you're being texted and phone calls, and it's constantly
it buzzes
nudging
at
you.
Yeah.
It's like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Whereas the Whoop doesn't do anything. It's up to you. You go to the app to look at it, but it will look at how you're if you're having stress during the day, it'll look at your strain, your recovery, how many steps you're doing. It looks at all your heart rate variability. So it's really in-depth biometrics. And then it will basically tell you what you need to do each day. So it then uses AI to say, okay, this is what you need. This is how much sleep you need. This is your recovery rate. This is your strain. You need to do more of this type of exercise. So it's pretty intuitive. It's really, I think they're great.
Are there any other gadgets that you would recommend to implement, I guess, in your everyday life?
Look, for me, the Whoop was really amazing because it really made me accountable. So I was like, okay, I'm accountable now for my sleep. What I was really fascinated about, what was my deep sleep, my REM sleep, and what percentage was that compared to my light sleep. So I think that was fascinating. My HRV, like looking at how am I actually coping with day-to-day stress, and what's within my control from a micro stress perspective. Like, what are some things that I can manage better in my life so that my HRV is not dipping? For me, it's just been it's been so good to just be accountable and understand what's going on in my body. So I think that's any kind of measurement and tracking, like a Whoop or Oura Ring, are great. So I really recommend them.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
If we're all going to live longer, what are we going to be doing in these later years, in the the 90s, 100s, and like, is it going to be what a 60 or a 70-year-old is now, or how is that going to look if we end up living?
What a great question! That is such a good question. I was going to say we're all going to be playing pickleball. That's, again, racket sports help with longevity. I don't know what it's going to look like, because it's going to be interesting, because we're obviously going to have more robotics, more support. Like, does that mean we're going to be doing less? We're going to be less active? I mean, I think Dave Asprey talks about loads of hacks, exercise hacks, where he only has to do 10 minutes of something to the equivalent of an hour, like similar to rebounding, which that I'm really into. Sonia. But the bouncing and rebounding, like, that's a great hack, because 15 minutes of that is equivalent to
We need to get a trampoline in here.
Really?
Yes.
And we bounce for 15 minutes.
What does it do?
It's like insanely good for your health. Well, Camilla, tell us, why is rebounding so good?
So it's great for lymphatic drainage. So it's helping the body to detox. It's helping with flow, lymphatic flow as well. But it's just a full body workout. It makes you feel so good. You can put fun music on, you can dance, you can bounce, you feel like a kid again. So it's producing oxytocin, which we know is a big indicator of longevity. So, and it's like 15 minutes on that is equivalent to about 40 minutes in the gym, 45 minutes in the gym. And NASA did a big study on it, because it's to do with the gravity. So when you're jumping up, same as skipping. So skipping ropes and rebounders are just great hacks. But I think when we're older, I think we're going to be eating better, more active. I think self-awareness now, like so many people are aware now of what's happening and the foods that they're consuming and ultra processed foods. I think people will start moving away from that. I reckon we're going to go back to old school, like allotments with like our grandparents. I think they actually had it right. You know, there was more community. They grew their own food, like their food. There wasn't so many plastics. Like we've kind of gone so far forward, but we kind of need to go backwards again.
We like to end every episode with our guest showing us something in the room that they're in right now that is significant to them. Is there something in your office where you're working right now that is a significant item that you'd like to bring to the table to the podcast today? And you can take your time if you need to look around, if you open a drawer, or for example, you could show us your calendar and show us how busy you are, or show us your giraffe.
Oh,
what is this a gift? Where has this giraffe come from?
Okay, so there's some stories behind my giraffe. So I don't know if you can see, where's the hit? So there's a picture of Dave Asprey on the back of my giraffe. Yeah. So I got this at his conference and I have it on my desk as a reminder to not be so serious all the time, because I can be quite serious sometimes. So this is to remind me to play. It's also to remind me about biohacking and my passion. And also I'm really tall and I look like a giraffe. I've got really long legs. And so this is me after a few wines.
I love that.
Which I don't drink anymore. But
the sense of play in life, how important is that?
Play is really important. So at the conference I was at last year, that was a big focus, was on play, because it helps our brains to keep lit up, which is really important. But also it just keeps that inner child going. It produces oxytocin and serotonin and dopamine, so all those really sort of positive hormones that we need that counteract some of the cortisol that we're running around on. But yeah, play is really important. And I think like we have become really serious, haven't we? Like you see how kids play and how we play with kids, but as we get older, that kind of goes away.
Yeah.
So important to keep that going, keep the inner child bouncing on trampolines.
Well, Camilla, thank you so much for joining us, and we really appreciate all the information that you shared today.
Oh, pleasure. It was great to chat with you guys.
Thank you. You're a legend, and looking forward to seeing your book come out.
Yeah, thank you. I can't wait. You must come to the book launch in Bondi in June.
100%. Well, we will be there. Thanks so much.
Pleasure.